Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So I've been thinking about this whole partial opening of the economy. And I kind of just think about restaurants. Not just about restaurants, but I think about restaurants and how it is that these guys are going to be able to do a partial opening. Like if they can only have 25% seating compared to what they used to do. If they're limited on the amount of people that can actually come in and sit down. Because right now, a lot of these restaurants are just barely making the rent by doing takeout or delivery services. Doing that has a lot less employees. I mean, you just pretty much need the kitchen staff and maybe somebody to ring out the customers who come in. But when you open up the restaurant for seating, now you have to have a wait staff, you have to have, people who bus the tables, you have to have dishwashers, you have to have a lot more employees to operate an open restaurant than you would if you just had a takeout restaurant. And then not to mention, a lot of these restaurants have dropped their menu down to just a few items for takeout. But when you have a sit-down restaurant, when you have people coming in, they don't want just 5 things to choose from. They want an open menu. They want a full menu to choose from. That's the reason why they're going out to eat. Is everybody going to go out and order the exact same thing? And the amount of inventory that it takes for a restaurant to open up with a full menu that has been shut down for the last month is incredibly expensive. And from what I understand, this whole PPP loan, the payroll protection program that has been offered to a lot of these small businesses, doesn't include inventory. So they have to come up with an inventory on their own or get the vendor to lend it to them for, a month. And they've already are sitting in a situation where they probably didn't pay their vendors, and their vendors are probably not very happy about them trying to ask for even more. So, I guess that would be a business by business scenario, but I'd imagine that's probably a pretty common thing. So these restaurant owners would have to come up with an incredible amount of inventory to get their restaurant stocked so that they could have a menu for people to order from when they come in to sit down. And then when you only have 25% capability, that restaurant can never be profitable. Because at 25% or even 50%, most places are probably just breaking even. And that the time that they making the most profit is when that restaurant is full. When every seat in the dining room is full, that's when they're running. When they're running at full capacity, that's when they're profiting. So a partial opening of the restaurants is going to be a very bad idea. It's not going to be very profitable. And who came up with this idea for them? It was just like, hey, you know what? We got a great idea for you guys. Things are looking a little better out there with this whole virus thing. We're going to allow you to partially open up and then you'll be back to work again. No. It's like, hey, partially open up, put all this investment into it, and then nope, don't make a profit. Who would want to do that? As a business owner, you're looking at that going like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And then what if you're like a bar? Can bars partially open up? It was just like bars are like the hub of social networking. It's like, going to a bar is the place that you go to be social, not to be like social distancing from each other. So you can go to the bar, but you all have to sit 6 feet apart from each other. Who's going to do that? Who would go out and hang out at a bar when you have to stay away and you can only have 25%? It's just not going to be feasible for a bar owner. So the idea that you can start opening up the economy partially with restaurants it's just not going to happen. It's going to be a terrible idea. And the only people who I see are going to be able to, get through something like that are probably like the big franchises, the big giant, chain, the corporations essentially, not the individual, like the guy who owns a restaurant. He's going to be in a terrible spot if they try to do that. So what are they going to do? Say, yeah, you can open up, but guess what? You can't profit. Why would you do that? And then another thing I was thinking about is that the employee. Say you had laid off your employees because, you're on lockdown, you don't have an open restaurant. And now you call them up and you say, hey, guess what? We're going to partially open up and we would like for you to come back to work. And they're like, I was making more on unemployment than I was working for you. And now you're telling me that I have to come back and work for you on a partial opening, meaning like the tips are going to be that much less, everything is going to be that much less, especially when it comes to like tips, because that's really where like wait staff and bartenders and stuff like that, that's where they really make a decent amount of money. The wages are nice, that's like the staple to it, but really where the money comes in is by being a good server. And the better server you are, the more tips you get. But if you have a partial opening, then most of the time you're probably not going to get very good tips every day, considering that you have like so much less people in the establishment. So you think about that as the employee, it's just like, I was making more on unemployment than working for you, and now you're telling me I have to come back and work for you, and I'm not going to even make as much money as I was before this whole lockdown took place. How happy of an employee are you going to be? And now a lot of people say like, hey, it doesn't matter, but it does matter, because if you don't have happy employees, then you're not going to have a happy customer, because the person who is serving that customer is the face of the business at that time. So you have to have a happy employee to make sure that you have happy customers, to make sure you have return business. Who came up with this idea? You can partially open up a restaurant. I mean, it's the lamest idea that I think I've ever heard. It's not even possible. I don't know. Uneducated Economist. You guys let me know.